Hello,
Hey,
everybody.
we're recording.
We're recording.
All right.
Welcome to the table, Darren.
Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I can already tell it's better with you here, Darren.
Exactly.
Yeah. Three heads are better than two, or something like that.
Something like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're here to discuss our newest release, which was Right Path, which came out last Thursday with a little video. And if you haven't seen it, we're going to add a link probably to the comments of this video, or you can find it on our website, which is syzygalmusic.com. And so we wanted to take you through a little bit of how the song came about. Mikey, do you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to start us off.
Yeah.
So I can't remember, did we already talk about Twitchy, or is that a future conversation?
No, that's a future conversation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little out of order. So I can't really reference the conversation we had about Twitchy in explaining the song. What I'll say is right around New Year's. So this was New Year's 2020. So this was a few months before the pandemic, the shutdown happened. I was having some writer's block for a while. And it was 2 days after New Year's, I just forced myself to go down in my studio and start writing. And I didn't write Right Path at that point. I wrote basically the entire song Twitchy in like one night.
Love that. It's the best feeling.
It was, yeah. And it really, it opened up the floodgates for me of creativity for this project. And so then within the next week, I started writing the bulk of both the song Right Path and Stand Up. So all three of those songs were written in like the first half of January, which for me, that's a lot of creative output for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, I know we shouldn't focus on Twitchy, but I remember when you sent that over to me, and I again think it's one of those songs that you had named. So I kind of wrote the song around that. Yeah. But we talked about that, and there was already this like energy of like,
Well, it was funny because I think I know we're again not supposed to be talking about Twitchy, but I remember after I sent it to you, I was like, maybe I should change the name of that. But then you had already written the whole song. It was too late.
It worked perfectly.
But Right Path, I also came up with the name for that song as well.
Yeah.
Although I think I called it The Right Path at first. We lost the word "the" at some point in the process.
Makes it sound cooler.
The or not?
Dropping the.
Yeah, cooler without the.
Yeah.
Just like how Facebook dropped the Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So with Right Path, the reason that I named it that is it was I had one of the main writing sessions for that song when I wrote some of the main music for the song. It was like an out-of-body experience for me, and it felt very right. Like it just, after having like writer's block for a really long time, and we did the first two songs in the previous fall, one of which was really written during the time that we were doing Future Rock.
Right, which is Shifting Sands.
Yeah, and so
also a future song. We're going to talk about all the future songs today that you haven't heard.
So, and then, we wrote Control, I think in the, 2019, I think in the early fall. And then we didn't write anything for like 3 or 4 months. And so since it was the beginning of the project and there was like only 2 songs, it didn't feel like we had much momentum to really get the project off the ground at that point. And it was causing me a lot of emotional distress because we had already, the idea was there. And we were at the beginning in the summertime in 2019, we were very excited about the project. And we had that like beginning of momentum, and then it stalled out. And so
we had sorry to interrupt, but we had a lot of momentum as we were finishing Control. And I don't want to go too much into detail, but just as Mickey had started this band with Darren and I, Darren and I get a call being like, we have an opportunity to open up for this really big band. And we were like, oh my God,
Oh,
we have
yeah.
one song.
Yeah.
And we were going to do it. I mean, thankfully it fell through and we're ready to do that now, but
Yeah, we weren't,
that
I
was
don't think we were ready.
No,
No.
we were not.
It would have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Just
But
would have been
it's
like
cute.
electronica blues jam to
It was
complete the
cute
set.
that we're just like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll just muscle through
Yeah.
it.
So I mean,
Yeah.
by the end of December, I had some serious doubts in myself and about whether the project was actually going to happen. So writing those 3 songs in January and The Right Path being the second one, specifically, I remember that feeling writing Right Path where I was like, oh, this is, I get it now. This is actually going to happen. I had that moment where I really believed it was going to happen. And I didn't have that belief yet. And it was a very powerful feeling. I mean, it really like washed over me entirely. And I don't think it's really, I mean, there's obviously like peaks and valleys that we've had since that moment, but like, I've never had doubt about our project since that time. It's really about finding that connection and that feeling where you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it's it was very purposeful for me.
Yeah.
So it was it was a great emotional release to write that song.
I love that. I feel like the beginning of the writing process with you has been such an interesting journey for a lot of reasons. We've had a lot of discussions about the idea of like, about the project itself, but also just being on the right path and being self-aware and like as a human, like what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from some of our discussions has been that anything you do is not necessarily something that has immediate gratification, and that there's these big things in our lives take a long time to manifest, and this being one of them. This project, we're just starting. We're slowly leaking these things. Like, how many people are interested right now? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But it's about being consistent. It's about showing up. It's about just doing it without the expectation of any great reward. And even if there was a great reward, I don't think that would be as satisfying as actually giving the time and doing it and knowing that it's the right path.
Right, yeah. I would say the reward part is the process of doing it. That in itself is a reward.
Mm-hmm.
And
believing in it, not having to force it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm writing, the way that I when I'm writing or trying to write a new song, because there's a lot of songs that are like on the chopping room floor on my hard drive that never saw the light of day.
Well, I think in one of these things you said you have like over 200 or something.
Yeah, something like that. A lot of them are really bad.
You gotta whip them down.
But no, the way that I know when I'm like, there's like a certain like tipping point or moment when I'm starting a new song where I know that I want to like finish it. Mm-hmm. And it happens at different points of different songs, but it always has to do with like, at the end of the day, like I'm writing music for myself that I like. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to write music for other people, that's a trap. And it's hard to be authentic.
Unless you work for an ad agency or something like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Make
writing jingles.
Yeah. I feel sad in a sense because we missed the jingle days. I hear these stories of the jingle days, man, and they sound pretty dang cool. Okay.
Rick was telling me. Rick
talks, and Larry talks about the jingle days. Like, it was really good money. It was very, and it was creative and whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I completely agree. It's and especially as creatives, I think we're documenting, so we're trying to create things that would be relevant for other people, hopefully. And if they're relevant for us, then they should be relevant for somebody else, right? I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a relatability there, you know, if
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
almost any, you know, style of music.
well, like for example, I mean, this is kind of like a silly comparison, but when I first had Kai, like I was really obsessed with these little like these like fashionable bibs, but like I hated the fabrics and I hated the patterns. Okay. So I just started my own little business. They're called bib danas. Michael Commissar, you know, coined that term. And I just made these cool things, and because I wanted them. So I was like, maybe
Yeah.
somebody else wants them too, you know. And this is how creativity and sort of like commerce ultimately works. I
Yeah.
think. So Darren, like for you, like coming in as the drummer on these, I know that, you know, Mickey and I kind of developed the songs and then we're like, you know,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that process for you and like, you know.
Well, pretty much the way the process goes is, you know, Mickey will like send me like a scratch track or a demo track, and then I'll just listen to it for a while, let it kind of sink in and get the whole vibe of it and all that. Listen to your lyrics and all that, and then just be ready for showtime in the studio.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how that goes from the.
I screwed up how I did that though the first time around, which I'm not going to make that mistake again. So
That was a good. I mean, you know, it was our first song. We had no idea.
well, like, you know, it was all of them. I sent Darren. So what happened was, you know how you record the vocals, you record the scratch vocals on your computer. You send them. The demo is basically, you know, I write all the music, I do the program drums, and then you record the vocals on your computer, and then I do a rough mix. That's the demo.
Right. That's the demo.
The problem is then that was what I sent to Darren for him to familiarize himself with. But then what we played for him when he actually went in the studio was after you recorded all the vocals with Rick, which if anyone heard, maybe someday people will want to hear the demo version of the songs versus
if we get famous enough, there'll be a market for that.
The vocal, I think the biggest difference is the vocals. I mean, obviously there's no acoustic drums on the demo versions either, but the vocals change so much, and even some of your phrasing and some of the parts change.
Well, I think there were some parts added too, or something.
Parts added. I mean, definitely a lot of harmonies. I mean, there's so many harmonies, and that's, I think, you know,
which is awesome. I think, you know.
I think it's great for the song, but I think that can be very difficult for you, Darren, if you don't know those are going to be there, and then you're.
Oh yeah, well, it's just a matter of refocusing, you know, listening to the new arrangement, and then taking it from there, and you know, and I think Rick in the through the studio window was cueing a couple of things, and Mickey, you were too. I think everyone was at one point.
Yeah.
No, nothing too obnoxious or anything, so that helped with doing different stuff and all that. So, and you know, I draw inspiration from the music and the lyrics. You know, I really enjoy listening to the lyrics of songs and getting inspired with that. Whereas I know that most of the time with more passive listening, you're not really always paying attention to that. And
is that different for you from like the Future Rock project? Like, did you guys, I mean, I guess it must be different.
There's definitely some differences there. You know, Future Rock vocals weren't always the forefront. You know, a lot of our stuff was instrumental.
Did you feel more freedom with that? Like, is this more restrictive, you feel, or like, do you like?
No, I don't look at it in those terms necessarily, those distinctions. I mean, it's a different vibe, different, in a way, different way of going about it creatively a little bit. But it's pretty much.
Well, you know what? Mickey and I both have gushed over how much, you know, Syzygal has done for us over the last few interviews. Like, do you want to talk a little bit about what this project feels like for you, or like what sort of, one of the things that we discussed in the past was just the timing of it with like the virus, and how it just sort
Yeah.
of came at this time where it was very like rejuvenating and like kind of like a lifesaver of sorts.
Yeah. I would say, it seems like a blessing in disguise, so to speak, with the pandemic, was it did offer some time for creating a lot of these new songs, a lot of this material, it seems like, because, Mickey, you like to compose or flesh out ideas on your own and then take it from there.
Yeah.
So I think the pandemic, when the pandemic first started, it kind of provided that opportunity, it seemed,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
which was nice. And I just, Anna, I just really, really find a lot of inspiration with your lyrics and all that, and kind of like a mix of I guess like spiritual insight or spirituality and psychology. I don't know if that's I guess that's kind of my interpretation of it, or
Yeah.
I actually have a question for you, Anna.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been writing blurbs about, I don't know if I would say what the meaning of each song is, but like, how would you put it, what those blurbs are?
Very good question, Mickey. I don't think I can help myself. I have like a problem with like, this is a good song to kind of talk about this with, but I feel like, self-awareness and also just awareness of our surroundings is so important, that no matter what it is that I'm saying or writing, I've been doing these, even for years, I was writing these blurbs on my social media feed. Just if I had an epiphany, or if I had a feeling about something that I felt could potentially speak to somebody else, I had to share it. And one of the things that I find important, or that I've picked up along the way, is that it's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it that makes the biggest difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, you've given that advice a lot.
Yeah, and it's so true, because
That's
and
good.
even in something not in, not even just in confronting somebody, but in how somebody hears something. So sometimes a small concept I will sort of elongate to this long thing, because I feel like I have to continue kind of expressing it in different ways just to make sure the point gets across. And it might seem redundant sometimes, maybe to some people, but to me it just allows for the widest reach, and making sure that there's no confusion, or maybe more confusion, and then makes you think.
The thing that I find interesting is, so there's a lot of artists that, if asked the question, like, what did you mean by those lyrics, they will not answer that question at all. So I think it's refreshing that you're willing to actually write a bit about what the lyrics mean to you. That's kind of rare, I feel like.
Yeah, but there's still that interpretive element, I think, for each person.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's the beauty of language. When I first started writing, English is my third language. There was a long time when I was freaked out at the idea of using words to express myself. Becoming a singer for me, was a thing that happened very late in my life. I was in my late 20s when I decided to pick up a guitar. This is not like I didn't have, I always enjoyed and I always admired musicians, in particular female musicians, just because go women go. But it's intimidating, but as I was a fine artist for the majority of my educational endeavors, that's what I went to school for. And to me, that seemed like a good international language to communicate my thoughts, but I didn't have to use language, not in the formats that I was using. But I found that I reached a limit to what I could say or what I could do. And so at that point, that's when I felt the need to start using words, because you don't have to say it, you know, here I'm saying, I really have to explain myself and it has to be, you know, but you also don't have to say a lot to evoke feelings and to evoke thought.
Yeah,
Like you said, Darren, you know, it's like, yeah, like people are going to have their own interpretation. You know, I always use the example of like, if you flush a toilet, you know, I have this like thing in my head about doing, you know, like a sound album at some point. And it's like, if you flush a toilet, that has like very different meanings to a lot of people, but also the same meaning to a lot of people, right?
right. Yeah, there's the literal and figurative
Yeah. So it's just,
interpretation.
and it is messing with the psychology.
Oh, hey,
Big guy.
It is
there's
messing
Kai
with
and Kitty.
okay, pretty. In people's ability to think about things in a different way.
Yeah. Well, with this, you know, when I was listening to the song today, I really enjoy some of the wordplay of your lyrics too. Like, what's the one line? It's time to remember the way we forget.
Yes.
That's really cool. That's very thought provoking, and
yeah. And it's so, I mean, think about how much of what we do in our lives is, you know, and when we're born, we're these young creatures and we absorb and we have so much,
Yeah.
we have so much hope, we have so much love, we have so much enthusiasm. And then we get older and we get beat up emotionally,
Yeah.
psychologically, we have to fit into boxes. There's expectations of us. And so we lose track of that. When I worked at this recording studio for a long time. We ran a production school, and it was really interesting who came in for the classes. What I started realizing was that there's so many people that have this passion inside of themselves of what they want to do with their lives, and then they put it to the side, but it will haunt them forever.
Yeah.
And it will just keep knocking. And so these people kept coming to take these classes. They're like, I always wanted to do this. This is always something I've been passionate about. But, you know, 30 years later, here they are revisiting it. So
Yeah, that's cool.
let's be honest with ourselves. You know, let's keep that sort of beautiful part of who we are, like, just alive.
Yeah, to kind of like, you know, expound on what you're talking about just now is you know, I guess it's kind of like that classic conflict of what you want to do in your heart, you know, versus like societal expectations, or, you know, something along those lines, you know,
Well, and even self-sabotage, not
the
even
artist against the world kind of thing, so to speak.
not believing in yourself enough.
Right, yeah, that's a better way to.
How many people, you know, I mean, of course it's a harder life, you know, I mean, you know, it's a tough life to live as an artist. It's not easy. But it's also a tough life to just ignore the obvious.
Any creatives, any artistic spark that might be within you, or, you know, or.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, it's not, you know, there isn't a right or wrong way to do anything, even though this song is called Right Path. I mean, I think that all of it leads us to the place that we are meant to go.
Right.
But
the right path for you.
Right path for you, and also your ability to take in reality. And some things are just too difficult for people to face. Some things are too difficult for people to forgive, move past. And so you can't sweep things under the rug. You have to deal with them. But that is part of your right path. Part of getting to where you're supposed to go is dealing with those monsters or those things that are holding you back. So
and then, you know, I guess kind of like maybe the psychological insight of that is when you know, have a sense that you're on your own right path. I think, you know, that's like kind of an intuitive feeling you have within you.
Yeah.
That you know that you're going in the right direction, you're doing generally the right things for yourself and stuff of that nature. So
when it feels really scary.
But anyway, I know but as far as from like a purely drummer's perspective, like with this project, I'm definitely looking forward to when we can play live. You know, because you know, as a drummer, that's what's really awesome is playing drums live for people on stage. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's true for not just drummers, Darren. I think that's true.
Oh yes, of course.
But
Of course. I'm being a little got my blinders on there a little bit. So
No, but it's true. It's, you know, we talked about this, I think last week too. It's just that energy and feeling that energy and feeding off of it and
yeah, it's a
recreating.
cathartic experience. Yeah, ultimately that's what it is. I think it's that cathartic.
Well, and imagine what it's gonna feel
experience.
like now that we haven't, like we've been told no, like we haven't been
Yeah.
able to, we've been restricted from doing it.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Well, there's
a lot of pent up energy there.
there's a certain vulnerability that's pretty unique to getting up on stage and performing in front of an audience, and it can be it's quite a thrill. I know a lot of people have stage fright and maybe just aren't able to get up in front of people, and I can understand why.
I think it takes time to get over that.
Well,
I
it
think
takes a lot of practice, because I mean, the first few years that we were doing Future Rock and I was performing, I was terrible. I mean, I was so closed off to the audience. I was so in my head.
Mhm.
And I just didn't understand. I didn't have the tool set to like know how to like use the nervous energy that I had in a constructive, positive way.
Yeah.
So like I was hiding from that, or like going away from it, instead of fostering it and using it to my advantage.
Yeah.
But it took many years of practice to like actually like really figure out how the heck to do it.
The first time I ever performed on stage in front of a large audience, which for you guys is not that large, but I think there was like 100, 150 people. You guys are used to playing for like big audiences and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was at
Millions
Space.
of people.
Millions of people. I was at Space.
Live Aid. I'm being silly.
So anyways, I was opening up for this person, and it was at Space in Evanston, and I hadn't played in front of that big of a group. I'd gone to like open mics and stuff, and I was like still feeling nervous there, but here I was doing my own set, and it was just me and a pedal steel player, very naked, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
basic.
get up and like, so it was like almost time, and like right before I got on stage, like probably 20 minutes before I got on stage, my arm, like I like pulled my muscle. It like went numb. My arm hurt so bad. I could barely move it. I had to like I didn't do anything. I literally was just sitting there. And
Wow.
I was like so nervous, and I'm like sweating. My arm hurts. It's all stiff. Then it's my turn. I go up on stage. I said fuck so many times on stage. On the I was like, I messed up, and I like started a song over, and in my head I had just bombed this, and this was the beginning and the end of my musical career.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
And I got off stage. Of course, everyone was like super, you know, I was like, they're just being nice, you know. And luckily someone videotaped the whole thing. And so I got to watch it back. One, I didn't do that bad. I didn't do as bad as I remember doing.
Sure. Yeah.
And
How it is.
yeah, and I'm really thankful for that recording, because otherwise in my head, I mean, I blew this up to be this massive failure where, you know, I mean, yes, I need practice, but I've seen worse.
Yeah. I think, you know, like, you know, just kind of being humorous here further, once you get past the stage fright, I think what can sometimes replace that is the fear of no one showing up to your gig.
That's it.
You never get over that one.
Right, yeah. There was a couple of Future Rock gigs where it's like, there's two people here and they're getting up and leaving.
Yeah.
Oh well, hey, you know, got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
I remember there was one show where there was like 5 people, and it was a huge dance floor, and there's like 5 people in the audience, and then there was like someone on a bicycle that was like riding around in the empty space.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, how cool? That's cool. I mean, at least you had a bicycle. Who can say that? You know,
something fun to watch while you're playing. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
was there a good crowd? There was one bicycle, so
But there's nothing like the feel, like as Darren was talking, I know exactly what show Darren was talking about. There's nothing like the feeling of being on stage and having the only two audience members leave and finishing a song and having 0 people in the audience. I mean, that is about as humbling as it gets.
Yeah.
It was like an oddball gig. Like,
it was in a college town in Massachusetts somewhere. I can't remember which city it was.
We were on tour with
like hardcore. Like,
we were opening for the Disco Biscuits, and
well, the funny part was like,
and it was like on a Tuesday night or something. So I mean, some of it can be,
yeah, but we
in the context.
And that at that stage of future rock, I mean, we were like really prog rocky, and like I remember the song where the people walked out. I mean,
Rock House.
Yeah, we were playing like this super intense jam, so it's like so loud, and then stop, silence.
But speaking of future rock further, actually, Felix, he's the bass player in future rock. He was really good at like offering us advice on, how to be aware of the other musicians on stage. He really taught me some good lessons on that. Like, don't just be buried in your electronics or just, you got to make eye contact with me, because you're going way too long with this build up. So please look over at me so I can look at you and say, please end this.
Well, and also bass and drums are kind of a married pair.
Sure. Yeah. It's the rhythm section, the backbone.
I guess now,
so anyway,
I'm gonna take that. I gotta be locked in with you now when we play for Syzygal, Darren, since I'm gonna be playing bass.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay attention to you guys at all. So
correct. You're gonna be out in front, and we're gonna be behind.
Go off in your own world.
Whatever. Who are these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. It'll be great. But yeah, I mean, and being able to do this, even being able to talk about it on this level and to like have these songs and to I think with this project, we do have a really strong intention, and that's really cool. And it also just, it's very freeing. I mean, what mental health for us, we've talked about this before, is a really, really important topic and cause that we as a project, individually, I think we support, but we as a project just very heavily support. And we want to find ways to help people, not feel alone, just the way that we feel alone. Like we're, we need people just as much as they, might need an outlet as well.
Yeah, I think just by the very act of talking about mental health, you're doing a little bit to help destigmatize it, right? And that's really such an important thing for a lot of the reason people feel alone about it is because they feel afraid to be able to tell someone else that they're having mental health issues.
Yeah, right. And we've come so far in that. I think there's still a long way to go. But I mean, I remember a time when, even there's this like hierarchy of like, even economically, it's like people just don't want to admit that they might be having problems, or that their families might be having problems, or that they don't have a perfect marriage, or that they don't, their kids are depressed and abusing and whatever.
That stigma is still there.
Yeah, but we are people, and we live in a very fast-paced society that continues to
a lot of
on the floor, Kai. I think your water's right on the floor there on the in the living room.
A lot of society is it seems like a lot of instant gratification,
Instant gratification, but I think when we first,
there's an aspect of that, so
yeah, and their choices and stuff. I mean, I'd much rather go into a store with like 2 different kinds of milks than like 75, but it's also so much is thrown at us, right? How do you process all that? We've got that part of it is getting faster and faster, and it's very intense information, conflicting information, intense information, violent information.
Yeah, even that, yeah.
Well, we just have, we have a societal problem with information being shared that's not rooted in truth or facts.
Right.
And we're losing, as we lose the last of the newspapers that remain. I mean, we're we're in uncharted waters here, I think, in terms of like what sources, how many sources are there left that are just trying to do objective reporting on things.
Well, you got Fox News, so that's good.
Seems to be dwindling.
It's hard. I mean, and this is a double-edged sword of like, the internet and social media and all this is like, in one way it's helped connect all of us, and it's helped, expand our sort of freedom of speech and things like that. But it's also diluted everything to a point of, pure insanity.
Yeah, and I think, that's part of the beauty of music, is that in a way it can kind of transcend all of that, or
yeah, it's a good
give
point.
you that kind of expressive outlet, to kind of, in a way, break through it. Director's cut. So I think, I was just saying, it's like, that's part of the beauty of music, I think, is that it can help with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It has that cathartic experience, that relatability, that connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of my philosophy on music there, I guess, a little bit. So, yeah. Wants to be part of the show.
Yeah, it saved me before I started playing music, and I'm sure it does so for a lot of other people. So, not that we're trying to save anybody per se. That's not the point. That's not what, we're not like saviors. Like
we might be trying to save ourselves.
I think we're trying to save
nothing else.
I think that's it. And if anybody can just have some relief or a sense of solidarity with us through the process, then that's amazing. Mm-hmm.
That's reward in and of itself.
Yeah.
Wait until we actually get to have our first ever rehearsal.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Rehearsal is fun.
I love rehearsing. I think us, even when I was doing stuff with you with Future Rock, have rehearsed. I can probably count it on one hand how many times. Before we played.
That doesn't say a lot about Future Rock.
But it does say a lot about Future Rock in the sense that you guys are so tight and you guys are professionals. And so I come in, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna go play North Coast, and we're doing like one rehearsal beforehand. Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna go fly to Florida, like we're gonna do one rehearsal.
But there was everyone in Future Rock. Everyone was responsible for doing their own individual practice and rehearsal.
Yeah.
So that
it worked.
When we came together, it was just pulling that all together.
Yeah. And it did feel really good.
You did great with those shows, Anna. So
thanks.
In hindsight.
I had fun. I look forward to more.
The limited everything. Limited time.
But it is pretty crazy. We've been doing this band now for has it been 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
2.5 started in 2019, right?
Yeah, 2.5 years, and we've never rehearsed.
Mm-mm.
That's wild.
No.
Yeah, rehearsing's overrated.
No. No. We will. Once we get there. We are gonna play, and but in the meantime, we're just so excited to be releasing this stuff. So this coming up week, we're releasing Control, which is one of our earlier songs. And for that, unlike the other videos, we actually have a very legit music video. For those of you that are interested, the other videos I created myself to help, I'm a very visual person. So I thought it was important to kind of create just something that was a bit thought-provoking, evoking, however you want to look at it. But Control has this like legit music video that's really fun. And
that you star in.
I star in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like one of us is actually in on the screen.
There's some good close-ups.
There's a lot of close-ups. So just be ready for close-ups. But yeah, it's exciting. So we've got a few more songs to release, and then the album will be ready for purchase and download, the full album as a stream. So we're excited for that. And yeah, I think that's it, you know. I'm glad Right Path is out.
Me too.
We are on the right path.
Looking forward to the full-length album, Right Path, coming out.
And the full-length album is called Right Path. So this really was our title track. And yeah. And you know, I mean, it's awesome that we're talking about this now because we are continuing to be productive, and you know, when this album is out, we will be doing more. We will.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Sounds good.